Example 1. Given f of x is equal to x squared and g of x is equal to x squared plus 4, find each of the following. All right, so we've got a bit of work to do here. If you kind of scroll through the page, you can see the things that we're going to be finding using these two functions f and g, okay? We're first going to find f of g, so f composed with g, and that new function's domain. And then in part B, we're going to switch the order. So we're going to find g of f and its domain. And then if we go down to parts C and D, we're going to form the new function f composed with f. It is possible to compose a function with itself. And then we're going to take a look at g of g. Okay, there are a couple of extra problems at the bottom here. Once you form these functions, these new functions, remember, they're going to have all the characteristics of a regular function. So in parts E and F, we're going to plug an input into our new function to see what the output is. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of work going on in this page. Okay, so let's go back to the top here. We'll start with part A. So we're going to find f of g, okay, in the domain as well. Okay, let's focus on forming the function first. Please realize that this is composition. This is not multiplication. That open circle in the middle indicates that this is composition. Okay, so if you're asked to find f of g, the first thing you need to do is translate this thing. It looks like fog. We're going to translate it. Okay, we're going to write it this way. This is f of g of x. Okay, so we get rid of the little circle. Okay, it is actually much easier to interpret composition this way. Okay, so remember what I told you. With composition, we are plugging one function into another. Okay, so think back to just plain numbers. Okay, I'm going to go out to the side here. If we take our f of x, which is x squared, what did that mean if I asked you to do f of 4? Okay, well, whatever's inside, that's what your input is. Okay, so this would mean my input or my x value is going to be 4, so I would do 4 squared and I would get 16. Whatever's inside the parentheses, that's your input to this outside piece. Okay, so remember that. Okay, it's going to work the same way. It's a little more complicated with composition. Okay, but the idea is the same. When you look at f of g of x, you have this inside part. Okay, g of x is the inside function here. So let me write that out to the side. So g here is the inside function. Okay, since it's inside the parentheses, that is what we're plugging in to f. Okay, so g is the inside function, f is the outside function. And what you're going to see with composition, we always plug the inside function into the outside function, always. Okay, so here we're plugging g of x. G of x is going to be the input to f of x. Okay, so this is how we do it. Okay, this is how I do it. Okay, it makes sense to me. I'm plugging g of x into f of x. Okay, so what I do is I look at this and I say, okay, f is the outside function. I'm plugging into f. So I write down the outside function. Okay, here's the outside function. F of x is x squared. Okay, everywhere, okay, my input is going to be g of x. So basically what that means, okay, remember, you always plug in for x. Okay, so everywhere you see an x and I circle it, okay, I'm going to replace it with g of x. G of x is x squared plus 4. Okay, so let me repeat that. Okay, the way I do it, okay, is I look at this and I say f is my outside function. Okay, so I write down f, which is x squared. Okay, but you're plugging g of x into f. You always plug in for x. So everywhere you see an x in f, you need to replace it with the entire function g of x. Okay, so I'm scratched out the x and I'm replacing it with g of x, which is x squared plus 4. Okay, so inside the circle, okay, think of the circle as parentheses. I have x squared plus 4, okay, and that needs to be squared. Okay, so that's how you would form f of g of x. Okay, we do need to simplify. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, if you square something, that means you're multiplying it by itself. So this is going to be x squared plus 4 times x squared plus 4. Okay, so I'm going to go out to the side. I'm going to box or FOIL it. Okay, so let's see. I'll have x squared plus 4 times x squared plus 4. Multiply each pair together. So x squared times x squared is going to be x to the 4th. X squared times 4 is going to be 4x squared. 4 times x squared is going to be 4 times x squared. 4 times 4 is 16. So this is going to give you x to the 4th plus 4x squared plus 4x squared plus 16. If I combine like terms, f of g of x is going to be x to the 4th plus 8x squared plus 16. Okay, this is the answer for f of g of x. Okay, so let me box that for you. And then, remember, we're not quite done yet. We formed the new function. Okay, we took f and we took g. We composed them in the direction of f of g of x. Okay, we got our new function. It is x to the 4th plus 8x squared plus 16. Okay, but now we also need to write down the domain. Okay, if you think about it, if we go back to the top, f of x is a polynomial. So is g of x. They're both polynomials. We compose them and the result is x to the 4th plus 8x squared plus 16, which is also a polynomial. Okay, so the result is a polynomial, so the domain is going to be all real numbers. Okay, if you compose two polynomials, you're going to get a polynomial as a result. Okay, so the domain will be all real numbers. Domain is going to get trickier for composition if you're dealing with functions that are not polynomials. Okay, and that'll be in the next example. Okay, so let me write here the domain of f of g is going to be all real numbers because we got a polynomial. Okay, all right, so let me box that as well, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so moving on to part B. Okay, we're doing the same thing. We have the same two original functions. F of x is x squared. G of x is x squared plus 4. But now we're doing the composition in the reverse order. Instead of doing f of g, we're doing g of f. Okay, so we're going to get a brand new function. Okay, so let's compose them in this direction and then find the domain of the resulting function. Okay, all right, as soon as you see the little circle here, okay, that means composition. Okay, g is on the left, f is on the right. You need to make sense of this, so go ahead and write down g of f of x. Okay, so when you look at this, this means that f is on the inside, g is on the outside. Okay, and so you're going to be plugging f into g. Okay, so let me write that down. We're plugging f into g here because we always plug the inside function into the outside function. Okay, all right, so let me show you once again how I do this. Okay, we're plugging into g. G is my outside function. Okay, so I'm going to write down my outside function. Okay, my outside function is g of x, which is x squared plus 4. Okay, so we need to plug f of x into this. Okay, so everywhere you see an x, you need to replace it with f of x. Okay, so everywhere we see an x, I'm going to circle it. Okay, not the squared part, just the x. Everywhere you see an x, we're going to replace it with f of x. F of x is x squared. Okay, so we did it, so let's simplify. Okay, think of the circle as parentheses. So we're going to have x squared, and then that has to be squared. So we're going to have x squared squared plus 4. Okay, and if we simplify, okay, this is going to be x squared times x squared plus 4. Okay, so this is really x times x times x times x plus 4. Okay, so g of f of x is going to be x to the 4th plus 4. That's your brand new function. Okay, so let me go over it again to make sure you get it. Okay, we're plugging f into g here. Okay, so again, the way I do it, I write down the outside function because that's what we're plugging into. So I wrote down x squared plus 4. Okay, and our input to this new function, the input to the g function is going to be f of x. Okay, so everywhere I see an x, I circled the x, just the x. I scratched it out and I replaced it with f of x, which is the input. Okay, f of x is x squared. Okay, so you end up getting x squared squared plus 4. Okay, and then once you simplify, you end up with x to the 4th plus 4. Okay, all right, so last thing here. Okay, we composed f and g. Okay, in this direction, g of f. We ended up with a polynomial. X to the 4th plus 4 is a polynomial, so its domain is going to be all real numbers. Okay, so the domain of g of f is all real numbers. Okay, again, like I said, domain will get more complicated when we're not dealing with polynomials. All right, let's take a look at part C.